this week's episode of The Home Show. First, we'll get in the flow with innovative faucets, tubs, and showers. Then we'll soften things up with a water conditioning system. We'll dry to show you how to structure walls and ceilings. Take a walk with us on the most beautiful wood and carpet flooring. And finally, when you gotta go, we'll tell you where. All this and much more coming up next on The Home Show.
Hi everybody, and welcome to The Home Show. You know, we're going to be going on location today all over northern Nevada, talking about home improvements, and the first stop is Carson City, and it's Sierra Design Concrete. And Bob and his staff are going to be not only doing an outstanding driveway project, but in addition to that, really showing us the ins and outs of installation. Let's go ahead and take a look.
I'm Bob with Sierra Design Concrete. Bob, what are you doing?
Hey, I've got 32 yards of concrete here already poured, and I'm making sure we got all the grooves and all the lines down tight. Actually, let me go ahead and give this to our expert here who's going to finish this. But it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
I tell you, great job site we've got here and great project. And we're pouring, what, 51, 52 yards of concrete here. And
That's right.
As our expert on the show, tell me about the process here, because we've got so many different things that have gone on here in the last week. Tell us about it a little bit.
Well, what we had here, Bob, was asphalt that was about 2 inches thick. And altogether, it's about 4,000 square feet. We removed it all. It was taken out all the way. There was 2 inches of DG under it, and what we needed was a 4-inch grade to pour all our concrete.
And that's with Type 2 road base, which
That's
is your
correct.
preference now, isn't it?
Right. We like to use the Type 2 road base because it gets a good compaction. We brought it back in, set the grade, filled it, and compacted it. And then we set all our forms, and we have 4 inches of concrete, and we pour back 51 yards of concrete, which will all be done in one day. And so far, we got 32 yards down.
Right. Now, you know, folks, if you're doing this at home, there's some really important steps that you want to follow, and that is, first of all, compaction is most important after you've got the demo done, isn't it?
That's correct. We like to set the grades out at a 4-inch grade, and we make sure that it's all shot in with a laser. You need a good, straight, flat grade to help prevent cracking in concrete.
Well, also, I think drainage is important, too, and you've got it sloped away from the house to get the water away from the house. But now let's talk about your crew, because now that we've got all the material down, we're getting all the grooves in, getting all the stress areas taken care of, but as well as doing the stamp. And let's tell our viewers a little bit about that.
Well, what we've done is the concrete truck showed up this morning about 7 o'clock. There's about 4 of them, and we ended up pouring out 32 yards. And now that it's all laid down, it's been, what they do is rod it off with what we call the rods. And to get the concrete flat, they use a bull float, and then they Fresno it.
Now, let's talk Fresno, because people are going, Fresno, what is that?
The Fresno is designed to seal up the top of the concrete and get it smooth. It's used after what we call the bull float. The bull float comes in, we bring the cream to the surface of the concrete, the rocks are just below it, then you seal it off with the Fresno to get it nice and flat. Then we cut our joints in the concrete, which are tooled in with a joiner. And
those are 8 foot apart, aren't they?
That's correct. We try to stick with 8 feet because if you go any bigger, you're likely going to get a crack in the concrete. And what we want to do is control our crack so it gets right down the joint.
You know, I think that really goes along with that is experience, knowing and working with concrete so many years. You have the experience to know what it takes, especially in this environment, because northern Nevada is quite unique for concrete.
Well, what we're doing now is stamping this concrete behind us. When we're all done, we'll come in 3 or 4 days. We'll clean all the release off this using pressure washers, and it'll start showing the antiquing effects and the highlighting of the stamping of the stone.
Now let's talk a little bit about release, because when we're going ahead and putting our mud down, after we've got it all set, that's when we come in with the release, and that's a powder, as you see, as well, and that is spread through with 2 different colors, and therefore really having it spread through and highlighting each other along with the fascia of the house, the roof, and things like that.
Correct, and what we try to do with the release agents is bring in some colors that blend good together and go with the landscape, possibly the house. And you use the release agent for 2 reasons. It keeps the stamps from sticking to the concrete, and when you clean it off and then you seal it, it provides the antiquing and the highlighting effects to give the natural stone look of the concrete.
Now also, let's talk a little bit about the stamped technique, because I know that as the mud is a little wetter, you can go ahead and stand on it and stamp it, but then when it dries up a little more, use a different tool, don't you?
Yeah, we use what we call a pounder.
And that tool, you just go ahead and pound around that stamp to make sure you get the impressions you need?
That's correct, yeah. And as it starts tightening up, you walk on the stamps and you start pounding it with the pounder, and you get achieve the effect of the stamp that you're looking for.
Now what's next is we're going to go ahead and pour the lower end, because we've got another probably 20 or 22 yards here below to finish our project off. And then, like you said, we put the release on there, get it stamped, and then from there, tell us about how many days it takes to go ahead and pressure wash it off and then seal it.
Most likely what we'll do is 3 or 4 days we'll come back and we'll pressure wash and get this all clean, you know, and tone in the highlights and the effects with the release. You can adjust them with the pressure washer as you go. And then you let it sit a day or two and you come back and you put a sealer on it. And what the sealer does is it drives into the concrete and it provides a gloss, and it really brings out the colors, and it makes the surface of the concrete non-porous, so you don't have water getting in there, expanding when it freezes and popping the concrete.
Now what type of a sealer do you recommend for a project such as this?
On this project, we're most likely going to use an acrylic lacquer that has a high gloss to it. It's like a wet look shine. Is what
Really
we like to
brings
call it.
out those colors, I think you were saying.
Unbelievable. You're going to have 3 dimensions on this. We've got a rose taupe color, a weathered sage color, and you also have the color of the concrete, which is gray in this case, but you're not going to be able to tell it's gray because the colors are going to be, it's going to look like 8 colors probably.
Huh. Well, you know, I tell you, we're looking forward to not only seeing the finished project here, but as our expert on concrete on the Home Show, we appreciate you being out with us, and
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
your information.
Okay.
And more of the show coming up right after this.